Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Today, we're actually going to talk about Lake of the Ozarks versus Table Rock Lake. Let's check it out. Alright, hey guys, my name is Scott, and if this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome, thank you, and while you're here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button along with that notification bell, because every week I'm dropping a new video telling you everything you need to know about moving to or living in the Lake of the Ozark area. We are also a group of licensed lenders and agents, so I love making these videos, but of course I love more to help you with your lending or real estate needs, so that number popping up below, I am the guy that'll answer the phone calls, the text messages, and the emails. If there's a question, a scenario, or just something I can do, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. In the meantime, we wanted to do a video and just talk a little bit about the differences between Lake of the Ozarks and Table Rock Lake, and the reason why, as we have conversations, that's part of a lot of our conversations. People are asking questions, and hey, how does Lake of the Ozarks compare to Table Rock Lake or Branson? And so we're going to explore that a little bit, and we'll show a map, and we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of each lake. And like always, just depends on who you are, right? And what you're looking for, and you know what you feel is a pro and a con, and all those kinds of things, right? And I'd imagine you have a lot of folks here in the Ozarks that will hands down swear their lake is the best, and probably some in Table Rock that'll swear their lake is the best, and you meet in the middle, you duke it out, and I don't know what happens. But anyway, at the end of the day, they are both big bodies of water and lake lifestyle and outdoor activities, and you really can't go wrong, but there are going to be some differences. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab a map of Missouri. Obviously on one side we have Kansas City, the other side is St. Louis. Go to the middle, go down, that's where you're gonna find Lake of the Ozarks. Table Rock Lake is located about 2.5 hours south of the Ozarks, and that could be one of the differences between these two lakes. And what I mean by that is, if you're in that Kansas City, St. Louis, maybe Jefferson City area, and you're looking to do a weekend trip, it'll be easier to get to the Ozarks than it would be to get to Table Rock. So you would have to go an additional 2.5 hours down and 2.5 hours back. Maybe that's a factor, maybe it's not, but I would imagine that the Ozarks gets a lot more of that local Missouri traffic, just because of where it's located and the convenience of how to get there from those bigger cities in Missouri. So outside of location, we know that one of the differences between these two lakes is going to be the size of the lake. And you know, the Ozarks is over 1,100 miles of shoreline. Table Rock is around 800 shoreline miles. And so still big bodies of water. Just the Ozarks is on steroids a little bit. It's going to have more room. It's going to have more amenities on the water, which I think is another big comparison between these two lakes. As you know from past videos or vacationing or exploring, Lake of the Ozarks is one of those unique bodies of water where you have a lot of commercial stuff built up around it. So I talk about it all the time, right? There's tons of lakeside restaurants, tons of lakeside bars, marinas, you know, gas stations. There's so many things that are around this lake, and that is a big difference between Table Rock Lake. And depending on who you are and what you're looking for, Lake of the Ozarks, because it has that, it's known as a party lake, right? People come down to let loose and have a good time. So there's way more congestion, there's way more boat traffic, there's probably more boaters under the influence in the Ozarks, right? Because that is a big lifestyle component in the Ozarks, is going around from bar to bar, restaurant to restaurant. And at Table Rock Lake, they just don't have that. It's not the same rules. The lake isn't governed the same way. And we know that that is a big difference. Now, that could be a pro for the Ozarks. It could be a con for the Ozarks, right? We do talk to people that, you know, have families, right? Young kiddos. And I know I'm in the same boat, but that's a big draw and attraction for Table Rock Lake, is it's more family friendly. It's a little bit calmer, way more peaceful, not as much traffic on the waters. And so, I don't know, just depending on pros and cons, that's a big difference. So however you feel about, you know, the pro or the con, or the restaurants or the bars or the activity on the waterways, that's just conducive to who you are and what you're looking for. But we will know that the Ozarks is bigger. It has more commercialized space. It has bars and restaurants and a big party scene. Table Rock Lake is going to be the opposite of that. Lake of the Ozarks is also going to be one of those unique places where you can have lakefront property, you can have a dock. It's very easy, it's very accessible, it's very common. Like, that's the norm at Lake of the Ozarks, and there's a big draw and attraction to have all of that right out your back door. And Table Rock Lake is different. It's not governed and managed and owned the exact same way, right? Another difference between Lake of the Ozarks and Table Rock Lake is, if you're looking for lakefront property, Lake of the Ozarks is one of those rare places in the country where you can have a lakefront home and you can have a dock right out the back. And yeah, there's a seawall there, but for the most part, you own your property. You can do what you want on your property. Now, there's been some rules and some new additional requirements when it comes to building, and that's all good. But for the most part, lakefront homes, no HOAs, do what you want. You have a dock out back. That is very common and a big draw and attraction to the Ozarks, and that is a big difference in Table Rock Lake, where Table Rock Lake is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, and so it's a federally owned lake. And so if you think you have lakefront property, you actually have this boundary line between the water and wherever this line ends, and I'm going to research more on it, but you don't own that, right? You own up to that line, and then the federal government owns the rest. And so there's a big difference if you're looking for that piece of property and you want to put a dock in there, or you want to clear trees. That is very hard to do, almost impossible to do. You would have to try to buy into that scenario, and those properties are a little bit fewer and far in between. They exist, but it's a big difference between Table Rock and Ozarks. You can have that easily in the Ozark. In Table Rock, it's just going to be a little bit trickier. You can't just buy land, clear out all the trees, and throw in a dock. So that's heavily governed. Obviously, not able to do it. You are able to create a path, a meandering path from your property through the federal government to the waterway, but you're not able to do certain things. So just if you're thinking about exploring the two options, both are going to be Great Lakes, both are going to have beautiful views, both are going to have access to the water, but it might be a little bit trickier to have that property with a dock as easily as accessible as it is in the Ozarks. So where a lot of people like to have that dock right out back in the Ozarks, and you walk out your back door, you're on your dock and you're doing your thing, just in Table Rock, you'll have to explore what that looks like, because if you're not able to build right there on your land, and you don't have the permits to put the dock, or you find a property that doesn't have that, then typically what you're doing is you're leasing a boat slip in a marina. You're trying to buy a boat slip at one of the marinas. There's community docks, and so you have access to those things, and that's probably what the majority of people do. But that just means you're trying to find that slip or that community dock or that marina in somewhat of a close distance to where you live. And so, if it's just a golf cart ride or jump in the back of the truck and we're just going 5 minutes down the road or 10 minutes, cool. But if you have to travel, it could be a thing, it might not be a thing. You might be okay with that if you have a little bit more peace and a little less trafficked water, and probably a little bit cleaner water, right? So because this lake is governed differently than the Ozarks, I think the water is going to be just a little bit cleaner. I don't think the Ozarks has dirty water by any means, but because of the differences in commercial buildup, right? The differences in how the shoreline is protected in Table Rock, that's a big draw and attraction. People want a very, very clean body of water. I think Table Rock's probably going to have the Ozarks on that one. Something else to think about and consider is just the surrounding area. And you have the two lakes, and then outside of the lake for the Ozarks, you have your heart, right? You have Osage Beach, and you have a lot of amenities. You got lakeside, you still got restaurants everywhere. You don't really have a downtown area, right? Downtown feel, apartments or condos or restaurants, those kinds of things downtown. Ozarks is a little bit more spread out along the shoreline, right? And I think Branson has a lot of that. The Ozarks has things to do for the family, like family activities and water parks and bridal caves, and they have things to do, zip lining, they have things to do for families and kiddos. But I think the town of Branson has way more, right? It has this downtown community feel. It has a ton of different family-friendly activities, from water parks or roller coaster parks or bumper cars and go-kart tracks, and the Titanic is there. Like, I got to go figure out what that's all about. And there's a lot of things to do and things to see from a family and a community standpoint. So both places are going to have your small Midwest kind of small town feel. I think Branson could be a little bit of a closer knit community just because of the way that that place is laid out. So again, I don't know, just some things to think about and consider if you're looking for lake life, and you know, depending on what that is, right? You want a lot of action, you want nightlife, you want bars and restaurants and a big scene, man, Ozarks is probably going to be the place for you. If you're relocating and you want a little bit more of a small town feel and a lot of family friendly activities and a very safe environment, stuff like that, like, you know, Ozarks has got that, but Table Rock and Branson probably has it beat. Has a lot of music venues and some other community kind of things that can be done in both places. A lot of owner-occupied properties that are in these areas. A lot of people are buying those second homes or vacation homes in these areas. So again, like we always say, right, it depends on who you are and what you're looking for and your pros and your cons that are going to be different from the other guy's pros and cons, and it is what it is, right? We want to shed light on a few things, and I think these two lakes are very desirable in their own ways, and so I'm intrigued by it a little bit. So actually this weekend we're going to head out, we're going to go down to Branson, we're going to check it out, bring the family, do some sightseeing and check it out a little bit more. But if those are things that you're trying to uncover and figure out, you know, obviously we would love to help you do that as well. I say it, we're licensed lenders and agents. The videos are great, but helping you explore these areas and what could be best for you or your family is obviously what we enjoy more than anything. So one more time, the number popping up below, I'll be the guy that'll answer the phone calls, the text messages, and the emails. If you got questions about the Ozarks or if you got questions about Table Rock Lake, I would love to have that conversation with you. And until then, we'll see you on the next video. Bye. First things first, let's go ahead and grab a map of Missouri. We know, son of a bitch. At least that cut off at the right time. Another difference between the two lakes is going to be just the size of the lake. Now, they're both, oh man. Another difference, because Table Rock Lake is governed and managed differently by that might be a little bit different.